Tell us about Sophia.
Who wants to hear this? Who hasn't heard it a dozen times before, Mason?
The jury hasn't.
It's all going to be over very soon, sweetheart.
Oh, Mason, I really don't think it's a guest place to embarrass the hostess.
Guest? You're not a guest. Guests come when they're asked and leave when they're told to. They all lie.
The witness will please tell the court how she first made the acquaintance of the accused Sophia Wayne Capwell.
Oh, well, I'm sure I'm not accusing Sophia of anything. And you could hardly say we were acquainted. That would be presumptuous. Don't you agree, Sophia? Well, you know, fashions change, hairstyles, things, it was such a softer look now. I mean, women used to have that sort of geometrical look to them back then. I'm sure if we could all get up from this table and walk right into a time machine, no one could argue that Sophia was one of the most beautiful women you could ever see. She was by no means a star, but it was impossible to believe that she wouldn't be one. Although she didn't photograph as well as she looked, which for most of us is normal, but I'm sure it's a curse for an actress. She was always laughing at anything. And whatever she wore, be it ever so modest, she never looked decent.
And was she decent?
It's like asking a parrot to judge a poetry contest.
There's a call for Eden.
Well, no one would ever suspect her of being a wife, for instance, and much less a mother. Although I'm sure she's a very devoted one now, since everything's turned out so nicely.
Yes, hello.
What did you find out?
I'll get rid of him. I told you not to call me here anymore.
What's wrong? You can't talk?
No.
Call me back then here at the hotel.
Well, I really wasn't concerned when I heard the rumors. I mean, it's idiotic of me, of course, but I mean, nobody cared about sex then. It was just something mildly useful, a little inconvenient. Sort of like electric fry pans, you know, strange inventions, those things. But, well, people just didn't give up and break marriages up because of one little affair with a slut.
You bitch.
Well, I didn't mean Sophia. I mean, I was speaking generally. I mean, God knows I had my faults. I was a very sheltered girl. I was unrealistic. I didn't like being alone. And in retrospect, well, I can understand how Cece felt he had to work that hard and stay away that much. I mean, look at the fruits of his labor. I mean, he's one of the world's most foremost. And I'm afraid when he came home, instead of being happy, I was a little tiresome. Sometimes I would pack up a few things and go to my father's. And Cece would come in a couple of days and apologize and bring me back home.
Ask her if she took her little angel home with her then.
Well, I didn't see any reason to move Mason out of his home. I mean, there were plenty of people around here to look out for him.
They were, because you weren't.
The jury is instructed to disregard any remarks from the peanut gallery.
Well, it was one of those times, not the first. And I was waiting for Cece at Daddy's, and, well, he never came. I wrote to him a number of times, but nothing. So I finally packed up my pride in my little overnight bag, and I came home. But he wasn't here. Sophia was. I think I knew then. And she wasn't unkind to me. She wasn't anything. But by the next day, well, you know, the papers had been delivered. I was being divorced for desertion and, I don't know, various other things. I understood about Sophia. I mean, if I'd been a man, I'd have wanted her myself. But we had a son. And when Cece stopped me from seeing him, well, I wrote to him. I begged him to reconsider it. I promised I'd change, and I would have, too. But nobody wrote back. I wrote to Mason, too. Now, of course, I know that Sophia intercepted my letters, and I'm sure she did what she thought was right, but... Well, I'm sure people burning in hell did what they thought was right at the moment, too.
Now ask her if she tried to get custody of her little boy.
Oh, I did. I swear I did. But you never wrote back. Yeah, well, I understand them better now. I see them much more clearly. I mean, he's not as dashing as he was, and Sophia's only a shadow of what she once was, and I think I'm every bit as beautiful as she is now. I used to wonder how they could live with themselves. And then I learned that when you do something truly, terribly evil, it only acts on your conscience when you don't complete it. They've taught me so much. I learned to live alone and how to live with nothing and how to hate.
We find the witness guilty of innocence, of loving a man who found her a useful weapon to use against his brother, of marrying a man who was already married to his money, of woefully underestimating the tenacity of the competition, and worst of all, for having a telltale son.
Oh, no, darling, you were always the very best.
The prosecution, overcome with disgust and believing it wisest for all concerned, rests.
No. No, I want my turn.